Hillary and Glenn were born on July 17th, 2003. Same day, same year. Different hospitals, only 5 miles apart. Maybe it was fate, maybe just coincidence. But the neighborhood whispered that it meant something, that the universe, in its infinite schemes, had tied them together from the very start. They met before they could form full sentences. Two tiny bodies darting barefoot through sun-drenched streets, skinned knees and sticky fingers, drawing monsters and dreams in tattered notebooks. By 5, they were known simply as the Sneaky Brothers. No one knew who coined the nickname, but it stuck, like most childhood things do. It wasn't cruel, it was affectionate. They were quick-witted, always plotting harmless tricks, trading comic books, climbing abandoned rooftops to look at the stars. If one got caught, the other took the fall. They weren't just best friends. They were halves of the same spark. But time is a thief, and some things it steals quietly. At 15, Glenn's father got a job out of state. There was no big goodbye, just a rainy Tuesday, a half-hearted "I'll miss you," and Glenn saying, "I'll call you tomorrow." And he did, for a while. The calls turned to texts. The texts turned to silence. Life as it does moved on. Glenn thrived. He had a sharp mind, the kind that could take apart a radio and rebuild it into something better. He found rhythm in his new world. A scholarship here, a mentorship there. By 22, he was the youngest engineer on a major city contract, revitalizing the same streets where he'd once drawn dragons in chalk. Hillary didn't thrive. He stayed. And maybe that was the problem. Or maybe the world had always been cruel, and he just didn't notice until Glenn left. The neighborhood felt colder without the other half of his laughter. The friends around him grew harder. The games turned real. Petty theft, fights, hustles on corners with cracked pavement and empty promises. He told himself he didn't need Glenn, but some nights when the streetlights buzzed overhead and silence settled, he'd scroll through their old texts and stare at the blinking cursor. He never hit send. When Glenn returned, he barely recognized the streets. Everything looked smaller, dimmer, but it was still home in some twisted way. His company had leased a tiny site office on 3rd and Larkin, the same street where he and Hillary used to race paper boats in the gutter after rainstorms. On the evening it happened, the sky was smeared with the soft orange of dusk. Glenn left the office, his briefcase swinging by his side, already thinking about tomorrow's inspection. He didn't see the figure across the street. Not at first. Hillary's hoodie was up, his breath shallow, hands shaking inside the pocket of his coat, fingers wrapped around metal. He hadn't planned this. Not exactly. But when he heard Glenn was back, something inside him cracked open. Anger, confusion, maybe grief. And there he was. Glenn. Older, sure, but still with that same walk, that same posture that used to lean against alley walls during summer afternoons, waiting for Hillary to finish talking to a girl he'd never approach himself. They locked eyes. Recognition bloomed like fire between them. Glenn smiled, but Hillary didn't see his brother. He saw a ghost, a memory that never wrote back. The boy who left and never looked back, and his hand moved. One shot, echoing through the air like the final note of a song they both forgot how to sing. Glenn collapsed onto the cracked sidewalk, where years ago they'd once played soccer with a dented Coke can and cheered each other on with muddy knees. Hillary didn't run from the sirens. He ran from the moment, from the truth crawling up his spine, that it wasn't betrayal that pulled the trigger. It was grief. And by the time the lights flashed red and blue, and the neighborhood whispered again, there were no Sneaky Brothers left, only shadows.